Magandang gabi po sa ating lahat. Ngayon po nga ay inaanyahan namin kayo sa isa pa pong talakayan. We have si Attorney Joel Putuyan, who is probably known to you as a columnist sa Philippine Daily Inquirer. He's a lawyer and married to the mayor of Alcala doon sa Cagayan.
Yes, maraming salamat Dr. Melba. Magandang gabi sa iyo at magandang gabi sa lahat ng kasama natin ngayon dito sa ISIP-ISAK. Ang atin pong panauhin ngayong gabi ay ang President ng Center for International Law at siya po ay kolumnista sa Philippine Daily Inquirer. Ang kanyang column ay Flea Market of Ideas. Ayan. At siya rin po ay fellow ng Institute for Studies in Asian Church and Culture. Hindi ko na po patatagalin. Attorney Joel Butuyan, magandang gabi po sa inyo.
Thank you, Marie. At maraming salamat din, Ate Melba, Dr. Magay. Magandang gabi po sa ating lahat. The day before her term of office ended, International Criminal Court Prosecutor Fatu Bensouda announced that her office had concluded its preliminary examination on the Philippines and that it found that there is reasonable basis to believe that crime against humanity had been committed in the Philippines. Bensouda stated that her office will investigate crimes against humanity that may have been committed from November 1, 2011, when the Philippine ICC membership became effective, and up to March 16, 2019, the day before the Philippine withdrawal from the ICC took place. That period covers crimes committed within a period of 7 years and 4 months. In particular, Bensouda declared that her office will investigate unlawful killings between several thousand and tens of thousands of civilians attributed to the members of the Philippine National Police and others acting in concert with them, yung mga vigilante groups, no? During the period between July 1, 2016 and March 16, 2019, in the context of the Philippine government's war on drugs. This period coincides with the beginning of the Duterte administration and until the Philippine withdrawal from the ICC. Prosecutor Bensouda likewise declared that her office will investigate allegations of torture and other inhumane acts as early as November 1, 2011, which is the beginning of the court's jurisdiction in the Philippines. No? That was when we first became a member state of the ICC. This is also the time when Rodrigo Duterte was still mayor of Davao City. Now, anong klaseng information does the ICC prosecutor has right now which convinced her to investigate, quote, allegations of torture and inhumane acts as early as November 1, 2011. No? So hindi lang itong panahon na naging presidente siya, pati yung panahon nung naging mayor si Mr. Duterte are going to be the subject of investigation. From news reports of information submitted to the ICC prosecutor, there are the accounts of two self-confessed assassins who allegedly perpetrated kidnappings, torture, and killings during the time that Duterte was still the Davao City mayor. One of these hitmen was Edgar Matobato, who confessed in a Senate investigation that he was part of the vigilante group known as Davao Death Squad, or DDS. Matobato disclosed that he was part of the DDS for 25 years from 1988 to 2013. Matobato alleged that on Duterte's personal orders, he and other DDS members patrolled the streets of Davao every night, they abducting suspected kidnappers and drug users, and as well as political rivals and journalist critics of then Mayor Duterte. Matobato estimates that he took part in killing more than 300 people, and he himself personally killed about 50 individuals. For this work, Matobato says he received a monthly salary of about $130, an amount that was released to him as a ghost employee of Davao City. No? Matubato gave gruesome details of his years in the DDS. Bodies were chopped and buried in a quarry or dumped at sea, and political rivals and critics were gunned down in broad daylight. Another DDS member came out and corroborated Matubato's testimony in the Senate. He was Arturo Las Canas, a retired police officer who confessed that he was part of the DDS and he was the handler of Matubato. Las Canas confirmed that his DDS group of assassins engaged in extrajudicial killings of suspected criminals as well as political enemies and journalist critics of then Davao Mayor Rodrigo Duterte. Now, with respect to the alleged killings that happened between July 1, 2016 and March 16, 2019, this is the period when President Duterte was already the president of the country. There's a combination of various kinds of evidence. First, there's the PNP Command Memorandum Circular number 16/2016, which was issued by then PNP Chief Roland De La Rosa, now your senator. No? This command circular was issued on July 1, 2016, the very first day of office of President Duterte. This circular, known as Oplan Double Barrel, laid out the framework for Duterte's anti-drug campaign. Coinciding with the issuance of this circular was the beginning of the thousands of deaths that happened from alleged police buy-bust operations and vigilante killings. Second, there are the various statements of President Duterte himself and his alter egos, egging policemen or encouraging policemen to do the killings. President Duterte himself has made the following statements on various occasions, and I make these quotations. Number one, Hitler massacred 3 million Jews. Now there are 3 million drug addicts. I'd be happy to slaughter them. Number two, he also declared that fish in Manila Bay would be fattened by eating the bodies of drug suspects killed. Number three, he said that he will provide a quote-unquote pre-signed form to police officers, which assures police officers of a presidential pardon should they get prison terms for deaths during encounters with criminals. He also suggested that police plant evidence and guns in crime scenes to make it appear as though they fought back. He told policemen, quote, I will be there to protect you, do your duty, and if in the process you kill 1,000 persons because you were doing your duty, I will protect you. On the other hand, the PNP, through its spokesperson, declared that there is not a single case of extrajudicial killing in the Philippines. This is a complete absolution of any wrongdoing by policemen on the killings that they perpetrated. Then Justice Secretary Vitaliano Aguirre declared that drug addicts and drug pushers are not humans. They are not part of humanity, and therefore killing them does not amount to crime against humanity. Then House Speaker Pantaleon Alvarez also stated that he personally has no problems with vigilante killings and that he would prefer a shoot-to-kill order on criminals. Even Solicitor General Jose Calida was reported by the media stating that the killings that were happening were not enough and that he was urging the police to kill more. During one particularly bloody incident in the province of Bulacan, where 32 civilians died in just one day, President Duterte himself praised the policemen by saying as follows, yung namatay daw na kanina sa Bulacan, 32, in a massive raid. Maganda yon. Makapatay lang tayo ng mga another 32 every day, then maybe we can reduce what ails this country, said Mr. Duterte in his speech. Third, there is also the issue that under the operational manual of prosecutors and policemen, these are the manual of operations of DOJ prosecutors and policemen. Policemen are supposed to turn over all documents they have on an incident when one of their operations results in the death of a suspect. In other words, when a police operation results in death, there is no such a thing as a presumption of regularity because the police will have to be considered as suspects and they need to be subjected to investigation before prosecutors. The prosecutors are supposed to treat policemen as respondents in the investigation of the death of a suspect in their hands. In almost all of the deaths that occurred as a result of buy-bust operations, the police did not submit themselves to prosecutors for investigation. Fourth, there have been submissions made by NGOs and human rights organizations to the ICC detailing deaths that occurred in police operations and framing these deaths as crimes against humanity. The activist organizations that belong to the Bayan Muna umbrella organizations have been open and vocal about their submissions in the ICC. But apart from them, I am sure that there are other organizations that have submitted confidentially to the ICC. Now, what happens now that the ICC prosecutor has requested for authority to conduct a formal investigation? There are actually 4 stages that the country situation goes through until it reaches the trial stage in the ICC. The first stage is the preliminary examination stage. The second stage is the investigation stage. This is the stage initiated when the prosecutor decides to formally open an investigation into a situation following the preliminary examination in order to, and these are the purposes of the investigation stage, to collect evidence, number 1. Number 2, to find out what crimes have been committed. Number 3, to find out who is or are responsible for the crimes. In her statement that I earlier cited, Prosecutor Bensuda has requested for authority to proceed with the investigation stage. No? She needs to get authority from the court before she can begin the formal investigation. And the decision, the authority will be given by the ICC judges themselves. So we're waiting for the ICC judges to give the formal approval, no, for the investigation. The third stage is the pre-trial stage. This is the period when the court decides whether or not to issue a warrant of arrest or an order to appear before the ICC against one or several respondents. And once a person has been arrested and brought before the ICC will decide whether or not to confirm the charges put forward by the prosecutor. So in this third stage, the pre-trial stage, no, aarestuhin muna yung respondent even before the ICC will confirm kung i-approve niya yung charges by the prosecutor, kung i-approve niya na pumunta sa trial yung kaso, no? So potentially there is a warrant of arrest even before mag-decide sila na meron ng grounds, no, to try the respondent here in the Philippines, no? The fourth stage is the trial stage. This stage comprises the trial of individuals accused of crimes committed within the jurisdiction of the ICC, at the end of which the accused is either found guilty and sentenced or acquitted of the crimes. Now, what roles can victims play in the ICC? There are multiple roles, and I'm going to enumerate only the most important ones. Victims can present their views and concerns to the ICC judges. So pwedeng sabihin nila yung mga views and concerns nila, no? Victims can testify if they are called by the prosecutor, by the defense, or by the judges themselves. Victims can participate in the hearings through their legal representatives. Victims can seek reparations or payment of damages. Who can be considered victims under crimes within the jurisdiction of the ICC? There are 3 kinds of victims. Those who suffered physical harm, no, yung mga nabaril but survived, no. Those who suffered emotional harm, yung mga naiwan ng mga namatay, no. Those who suffered material harm, yung mga nawalan ng bahay o nasiraan ng negosyo or basta material yung harm na nadulot sa kanila. What led the ICC to consider that there is a potential crime against humanity in the Philippines, no? For killings to be considered as crimes against humanity under the ICC statute, no, 3 elements must be present. 1, there must be the killings must be committed as part of an attack on civilians. Number two, the attack must be widespread or systematic. No, we also meet this element because there are thousands of killings. No, number three, it must be carried out pursuant to a state or organizational policy. What challenges will stakeholders face from the probe? Well, it's obvious that for as long as President Duterte remains in power, and if his own candidate wins in the presidential elections next year, there will naturally be a climate of fear, no, that can prevent witnesses from testifying against the president and whoever else is going to be charged in the ICC. There will also be difficulty on the part of the ICC prosecutor to gather evidence because the investigators may not be allowed to step foot on Philippine soil. But the ICC prosecutor and its investigators can always receive evidence by coordinating with the various groups in the Philippines. Now, what are the appropriate ways to move forward with a seemingly uncooperative head of state? I think that victim groups and those organizing and assisting them must continue documenting the evidence that they gather. It is very important, though, that victims should register with the ICC. There's a registration requirement for victims, no? And this early, the ICC is already open, no, to victims' registration. The brazen disregard for the Bill of Rights by the Philippine National Police reveals that hidden behind the war on drugs is another war that is being waged by the government. This hidden war is the war against the Bill of Rights. It is a war to dilute, to render sterile, or even to completely render irrelevant the Bill of Rights in cases of police operations. Our Bill of Rights, particularly our rights to life, our right to liberty and security, as well as all our constitutional rights that ensure protection against an abusive government, are hard-won rights in all the wars and struggles that we as a people have waged in our revolution against Spain, in our wars against the United States and Japan, in our struggles against the Marcos dictatorship. So much blood has been shed to obtain and protect these fundamental rights for us. May we remember the lives sacrificed by our ancestors and our heroes for us to enjoy these fundamental rights.
Napaka eye-opening ng inyong sharing, no. Thank you for walking us through dun sa process sa ICC kasi we always hear about it pero paano ba 'yon? So I think you've given that to us. Sige po, siguro I would like to open our discussion with this question. Ano po? So ang ICC ay kilala na the court of last resort. Meaning, pag hindi makuha ang katarungan sa sarili nating bakod, this is the time that we try and access this system. Ano po? Sabi pa sa definition ng ICC, this is when the states are unable or unwilling to genuinely prosecute individuals, no, for crimes against humanity. Siguro po let's break this down, Attorney Joel. Anong ibig sabihin dito ng ang state ay unwilling at unable to genuinely, no, that's the qualifying word, to genuinely prosecute yung mga individuals?
Oh, tama 'yon, no? Yun yung dalawang requirement dun sa tinatawag na complementarity requirement, no, na dapat last resort ang ICC. And bibigyan muna ng chance yung court system ng bansa para i-prosecute, no, yung mga krimen na to at yung mga perpetrators ng crime, no. And only if there's evidence na unable or unwilling, that is when the ICC will come in and exercise jurisdiction, no. Napakaklaro dun sa manual of operations ng mga police and the manual of operations sa mga prosecutors na kapag merong namatay sa police operation, no, automatic yan, suspect kagad, dapat treated as suspect yung police. And each policeman involved in the operations should be subjected to a preliminary investigation, no. Pero itong requirement na to widespread, hindi kino-comply, no. In fact, sa isang pag-aaral na ginawa namin sa killing of about 32 individuals sa Manila, not a single instance there, no, na nag-submit yung mga police sa prosecutor and yung prosecutor nag-conduct ng preliminary investigation, no. May mga na-file na kaso sa Office of the Ombudsman, which actually has jurisdiction over crimes committed by public officials, no. Pero natutulog sa ombudsman mga 4 years na yung iba, no, walang aksyon. Yung mga ganyang mga pangyayari, yung mga instances of inability or refusal, no, would factor in dun sa may issue ng unable or unwilling ba yung Philippine government to prosecute these crimes. And the ICC are going to receive these kinds of evidence when it is given authorization to conduct a formal investigation.
Well, I agree with you, yung unable and unwilling, parang widespread na siya. And I hope that we can really solidify yung case natin dyan. You mentioned about the many instances na nagsalita ang Pangulo nating ngayon na grabe yung nakakapanginig ng laman. And then yung kanyang pangako ng protection at pardon sa mga pulis na makapapatay kapag nagkaroon ng engkwentro na tinatawag. Ito po ba mga salita niya na ito can be used by ICC doon sa tinatawag na natin na talagang actual investigation stage? I wonder if this will have weight pagkat dumating na tayo dun sa actual na investigasyon.
They were uttered personally by the president, and there are public records, no, attesting to the fact that these were the words of the president. No, this could be evidence of the fact that it's state policy, no, kasi requirement ng state policy yung killings, no, dahil ito yung mga words na uttered by the president, no. Pangalawa, this could be a piece of evidence on the direct participation of the president. This could be evidence of command responsibility on the part of the president, because these evidences that he had knowledge of these killings, that he encouraged them, no. Sa ibang situations medyo mahirap nang kumuha ng ganyang ebidensya na salita mismo ng akusado, no. So in our case, talagang sobrang ang dami-daming ganyang salita na I'm sure they're going to be very important when they're considered as evidence by the ICC.
I wonder about what you said doon sa sinabi ng Pangulo na he promised yung protection sa mga police na mga nakapatay ng mga tinatawag nila na mga nanlaban. I wonder if that will stand when this ICC case would push forward.
Wala siyang protection na may bibigay pagdating sa International Criminal Court, no. In fact, even dito sa Pilipinas, no, hindi naman siya po pwedeng magbigay ng pardon before the person is convicted. Kailangan ma-convict muna yung akusado bago siya mapagbigay ng pardon, no. So magkakaroon ng trial muna, makukulong muna ng ilang taon bago siya mapagbigay ng pardon, and by that time I'm sure na na-convict na yung mga yan, hindi na siya presidente, so hindi na siya pwede magbigay ng pardon.
Tama. So baka joke na naman niya yan. Speaking of joke, may tanong si Juco who is watching with us ngayon sa ISIP-ISAK. Sabi ni Juco, joke lang daw naman ho yung mga public pronouncement na yan. Paano daw po ba yun? Pwede ba yun? Sabihin na joke-joke na lang?
Kaso yung mga supposedly joke niya, ang resulta ay ang dami-daming namamatay, no? So hindi yung joke, no? Sinasabi lang nilang joke kapag natapos ng sinabi, no? Pero by itself, yung mga statements na yon, no, are evidence because they come from the president and they're followed by violence, no, by killings, no? So ipipiece mo together these pieces of evidence, no? Kung joke lang yung mga yan, walang namamatay.
Tama. Walang nangyayaring paghandusay sa kalsada if it was just a mere joke, ano po. And ito po yung tanong, sabi ni spokesperson Harry Roque, media lang daw yung tinutungtungan ng mga evidences. Yung actual statements ho ba could be considered an evidence?
Oo, those are
In line pa din. Yes. Go ahead po.
yes, those are those can be considered as actual evidence, no?
Paano ho yun, attorney? Kasi ang mga namamatay talaga sa war on drugs, aminin na natin at harapin na natin ay yung mga mahihirap talaga
Yes.
who would not have the capacity na magpaimbestiga on their own, no? Or magpagawa ng sarili nilang medico legal. Paano ho yun? Eh kung namatay na nung 2016 or 2017, ano po ang pwedeng gawin ng mga biktima na ito, yung mga pamilya na ito?
Bawat pagpatay, no? May record dapat yung police diyan, no? Meron silang medical regard, meron silang on the spot report, no? Dapat yung mga yan, no, in the possession of the police stations, no? And pwede silang humingi doon, no? Although sa sitwasyon ngayon talagang mahirap kasi maraming mga police stations hindi nagbibigay ng mga yan, no? Pero when the bodies are brought to a funeral parlor, you know, the funeral parlors are supposed to conduct a some sort of a medical legal report as well, no. And those kinds of documents they can actually get hold of, no. And I'm sure binibigay sa kanila yon, no, pag-release ng mga bodies.
Mhm. Dapat
Oo.
po, no?
Oo.
Kaya lang may ang aking sunod na tanong ngayon, ang iniisip ko is that practice done. Lalo na kung yung mga mahihirap, they don't know anything about due process. Hindi nila alam yon. Sige po, tanong ako dito, attorney. Sabi niyo may victims registration, no?
Yeah.
How is this registration form done? Paano nakukuha ito?
Meron actually isang office within the ICC, no? Ang tawag sa kanya is VRPS, Victims Registration and Reparation Section, no? Sila yung tumatanggap ng victims registration and ma-access yung applications, no, sa website nila, no? Pero maigi na yung mga victims should actually link up with a legal representative, no, mga lawyer groups, no? And tutulungan sila kung paano mag-register, no, sa VRPS. May mga grupong ganun, we can actually assist them and help them link up with these groups who make filings with the VRPS.
Okay. That's the very helpful information, Attorney Joel. Attorney Joel, how have you seen this war on drugs destroy our communities?
Alam mo, Marie, sobrang grabe yung distraction sa community, pero lalong-lalo na sa kultura ng mga pulis natin, no? I have represented two groups of victims, no? Unang-una yung isang biktima sa group of victims sa Payatas, na kinunan ko ng writ of protection from the Court of Appeals na binigay naman ng Court of Appeals. Pangalawa, yung mga biktima sa isang community, actually 26 barangay sa Manila, no, where 32 deaths happened, no. And nakita ko sa mga kwento nila, no, na yung mga pulis parang ang tingin na talaga sa mga tao, sa mga mahihirap para silang parang hindi mga tao. Kasi merong reward system, no, itong tokhang na merong binibigay na pabuya, no, sa mga police. And hindi lang monetary, pero meron ding factored in din ito sa kanilang promotion, no. Yung mga ibang pulis napupuwersang gumawa nito dahil kung wala silang record, no, na mga ganito, hindi sila napopromote, or worse, they're thrown to assignments na mga remote areas, no? So talagang ang daming mga pulis na napariwara, no, dahil sa ganitong sistema, no? Yung mga pulis pa, ang nangyayari is meron silang mga funeral parlors na suki. So doon nila ilalagay yung mga patay. And para mailabas yung mga bodies ng mga families, they will have to shell out 40,000-50,000 pesos, no? Yung mga charge sa kanila. And may mga ebidensya na meron actually porsyento yung mga pulis.
Yes. I would like to affirm Attorney Joel kasi we have been discussing this at ISIP-ISAK, and that common theme of alleged na connection ng pera sa war on drugs, especially as a reward, dun sa reward system. Attorney Joel, I think you will agree with me that there is really what they call the Duterte effect, no? Itong chilling effect. How do we as a group of people, as a community, fight this chilling effect?
Alam mo, mahirap talaga, no, yung tanong na yan kasi when you're confronted with a government like this na talagang yung prone to violence, no, and ganun talaga yung kinultivate niyang kultura for the past 5 years, no, talagang ang hirap mo talagang bigyan ng assurance, no, yung mga families that they would be safe. In fact, you would be misleading them, no. You have to be transparent with them that there's always, no, a level of risk, a high risk, no. If and when they decide to participate, no. They have to consider that, they have to be aware of that, no. And that should be part of their decision making. No? Talagang mahirap, no? Merong siyempre may mga ways and means that various groups have been doing, no, since even during the time of Marcos, no, where institutions would help give secured shelters to crucial witnesses, no, kukupin nila, no, and yung mga iba magle-lay low, and when the coast is clear, that is when they come out, no, dahil ang maganda naman dito sa crime against humanity, ito yung tinatawag na imprescriptible crimes, no, walang prescription, hindi kagaya ng mga krimen sa Pilipinas na nagpe-prescribe within a certain number of years, hindi mo na pwedeng idemanda, no? Dito, kahit na 20, 30, 40 years, no, pwede pa rin mademanda later on, no? Siguro malaking bagay na sa 2022, no, kung na magkaroon ng change, no, sa gobyerno, and mas magiging helpful yung susunod, no, malaking bagay yon para mawala yung climate of fear. So yun, I think, yung isang solusyon, no? Kung naghahanap tayo ng talagang solusyon that will basically cut the Gordian knot of what we are facing now, yun yung talagang siguro kailangan nating trabahuin.
Thank you very much, Attorney Joel. I think what you mentioned about being transparent and being just honest about it is liberating. Kahit na nakakatakot pa rin at meron pa ring chilling effect, at least alam natin that we can face this with the truth, hindi po ba? As we are winding down now, maybe I'd like to end with these questions. Ano po? Sabi ni Sir Bakal Hector Kalimlim, sabi niya, how can we deal with drugs without resulting with this messy war on drugs? Tapos, kaugnayan ng tanong kanina ni Timo, what do you think would be a good counter proposal to the current war on drugs? In conversations with pro-Duts daw, pro-Duterte, their complaint is that we always push for non-violence and our voice become void because we do not have an answer that will work. Is there a better way to go about the war on drugs na hindi violente? And I think that's also one of the things that I'm thinking, attorney. I think we all agree that in many ways, yung droga really destroys the lives of people. Pero ano bang magandang war on drugs na hindi naman ganito na pumapatay din ng tao talaga, at hindi ganitong kadugo, at hindi ganitong wala ng value, wala ng dignidad ang buhay ng isang tao? What would be your response to this, Attorney Joel?
Alam mo, since March last year, no, I've been based here in the province, and since my wife is the local mayor, I've seen how the local government operates, no, and I've seen the powers, no, of the local government, and also especially the police, no. Alam niyo, yung mga police, alam nila yung nangyayari sa bawat sulok, no, ng isang community, no. sobrang powerful ang gobyerno and sobrang daming resources para malaman kung ano yung nangyayari, no? If they only do their job, no, pursuant to law, they have every means possible to to arrest and prosecute and stop all these crimes from happening, no? Kaya nga dumadami yung mga ganitong krimen actually um, dahil din maraming connivance, no, na nangyayari, no, with our peace officers, no. But if they only do their jobs, no, it is so easy for them to identify these drug personalities, no, to conduct real buy-bust operations, no. They can actually record, they can actually produce mark money, and apprehend and put to jail all these drug personalities, no. That is the only way, no, to rid our society of the scourge.
Salamat kay Attorney Joel for giving us some insight on yung mga procedures sa ICC at paano mag-register, no? Maghain ng mga kaso. Siguro for our purposes sa mga people of faith, ang unang-una siguro nating step is to accompany yung mga biktima. Sinasabi nga ni Attorney Joel na yung impact ng pagkapariwara, both ng mga pulis as well as yung mga pamilya, yung klase ng sugat, sa kanilang consciousness. I think this has to be responded to ng church. We accompany them. Besides being a sanctuary, dahil nga sinabi na merong climate of fear. So, samahan siguro yung mga dapat mag-register sa ICC, pero natatakot sila. So, palakasin ang loob ng mga kababayan natin na naging biktima dito. Siguro that's something very concrete na pwedeng gawin ng mga simbahan. Now, secondly, yung merong sinabi nga yung wala tayong human rights na kultura. Sino nga ba nagsabi noon? Nalimutan ko. Ito yung malaking problema actually, which really is a problem of the church. Failure ito ng Kristyanismo natin that we, after 500 years of Christianity, wala tayong kultura that honors the human being as he is, as someone made in the image of God. Di ba nasabi na natin before, yung Genesis 9, a very basic na valuation sa tao is that he is made in the image of God. Kaya kapag siya ay pinatay, sabi, dapat ang kapalit buhay din. No? Why? Because he is made in the image of God. Sa Genesis 9 yan. Pero obviously, after 500 years ng Christianity, hindi natin hawak yung ganong pagpapahalaga sa buhay, irrespective ng kanilang class, ng kanilang power. Totoo yun na hanggang ngayon, hindi pa kumakapit yung consciousness na ang poor lives matter. Na kahit sino ka man, meron kang value. Alam po niyo, napaka-importante nitong image of God na mensahe. Hindi lang yung you must, be born again and be saved, ganon. Napaka-importante ng understanding na ang mga tao are made in the image of God. Halimbawa po, ang ISAK used to have a work among mga gangs. Mga very fierce na mga gangs diyan sa Batasan. Nag-umpisa po kami sa isang gang, yung Halik ni Judas, and then eventually naging 5, no? So it was enough critical mass para bumaba yung krimen at maging payapa yung communities. Now, nung tinanong ko yung mga bata, sabi ko, paano kayo nagbago? Kasi dati yung mga mukha nila, talagang mukhang mga magnanakaw, ganyan, Tapos, after mga 6 months ng Bible study, they started mukhang tao na sila. They started cutting their hair, hindi na sila nagluluting, hindi na sila nagpipilfer ng mga tires ng mga mga cars, mga tricycle. And sabi ko, paano kayo nagbago? Sabi nila sa akin, kasi po akala namin kami ay basura. Akala po namin palagi lang kami bubugbugin ng mga barangay tanod. At mamamatay kami na kagaya ng mga kasamahan namin na nagkandamatay na, sabi nila. So, wala silang feeling na sila ay mahalaga. So, magpapakamatay sila sa bawat isa dahil yun ang pamilya nila, yung mga gang. Ngayon, sabi nila, ito pong staff niyo, yung pastor, sabi sa amin, kami raw ay mahalaga sapagkat kami ay kawangis ng Diyos. We are made in the image of God. At kami po ay mga tao na nagpakamatay ang isang tao na walang kasalanan, no? Gaya po itong si Jesus. Ay sabi nila, ngayon po lang kami nakarinig ng ganon, na kami po ay mahalaga kahit mga batang kalye lang kami. So, very simple na truth na sila ay image of God. At sila ay may halaga. Hindi sila mga basura. Now, I wonder whether yung ating communication ng gospel, no, really raises yung consciousness ng mga tao na mayroon kang mahalaga kahit ikaw ay member ng isang collective, no, o ikaw ay mahirap. Yung mga komunista, meron ka lang halaga kapag ikaw ay part ng isang collective, no? You're only as good as the collective, yung abstract na collection ng mga individuals na hindi mo malaman kung ano sila, no? It's a concept lang. Hindi po tayo mga komunista in that way. At the same time, hindi rin po tayo mga tao na just because may kapangyarihan, nasa pwesto, at kumbaga meron siyang largesse, no, na pwedeng ibigay sa atin. May pera siya and everything. Siya ay mas mahalaga kaysa sa the rest of us. At kaya nakakatakot po sa akin yung mga sinasabi itong dating Justice Secretary, no, na hindi sila human. Ganon din ang ating presidente, na hindi naman mga human beings siyang mga drug addicts. So, they can be treated like insects to be exterminated. Hindi ko po alam kung lahat tayo bilang mga Kristiyano ay nababahala sa ganitong lingwahe ng ating mga opisyalis. Nantingin sa mga drug addict, sa mga tao who are at the edges of life, nasa margins ng lipunan, ay hindi sila human. So, pwede silang ma-exterminate. So, siguro failure ito kung wala tayong human rights culture, tapos pagka nagsasalita tayo ng mga tungkol sa human rights, walang traction. I think failure ito ng ating Kristyanismo. To be able to say na against class, against the collective, against, our even notions of, what is good and what is powerful socially, no? We have to stand and say, ang single individual is made in the image of God. At dahil doon, pag siya ay pinatay, buhay din ang kapalit. And kailangan po siguro na sa Sunday school, sa lahat ng ating mga teaching bilang mga simbahan, this is at the center. Who we are as human beings, we are made in the image of God. So, alam po niyo minsan yung mga kultura rin kahit sa China, no? Halimbawa, may mga cultures that say, hindi ka human being kapag ikaw ay hindi kasama sa isang family, isang clan, isang grouping. Kaya I think madali nilang in-embrace yung Marxism Kasi gano'n ang kanilang notion. Kung hindi ka kasama ron sa social entity nila, hindi ka human being. Now, dapat labanan po natin ito at unfortunately, itong ating mga opisyalis echo the same thing. Hindi sila human beings. Nakakabahala po ito. And we should rise as a church na labanan ito. Pangatlo po, nasabi na rin ito ni Attorney Joel na kapag ang umupo muli pagkatapos po ng eleksyon ng May ay mga kaalyado ng ating Pangulo, wala tayong pag-asa na magkaroon ng katarungan yung mga biktima ng mga EJK na ito. That should be an issue that we should face, no? Na kailangan kumilos na po tayo na yung boto natin in the coming election is more than the usual democratic vote. Hindi po ito boto lang sa demokrasya. Ito ay boto sa katarungan ng maraming biktima ng administrasyong ito. In other words, ito yung tunay na people power. Ito lang po yung dahil pandemic, hindi man tayo pwede mag-demonstration. Dahil marami po silang kapangyarihan, hawak nila almost everything na ngayon. Hawak nila ang kapulisan, hawak nila ang mga courts, hawak nila yung Senado, yung Congress, lahat, no? So, mahirap. Pero, meron po tayong power bilang citizens. Boto. This is the only thing that remains for us. At kung gagamitin po natin ito, to see to it na we can vote out of power itong mga ganitong kapangyarihan. At dapat, ang church should once for all show its muscle sa boto. Hindi kailangan na lumabas at mag-demonstration. Hindi na po pwede yan eh. Ang kailangan is to utilize what is given to us constitutionally na matagal na. This is our right and this is yung, kung akong tatanungin, this is yung form ng people power. This is the shape of people power sa panahong ito. Yung ating boto. At sana ang lahat ng simbahan, lalabanan ang lahat ng mga makapangyarihan na may responsibilidad sa pagpatay sa mga biktima na ito. Kung tayo po ay tunay na mga Kristiyano, we should rise as one and use our voting power para magkaroon ng katarungan. That is what is at stake sa election po na ito. All of these thousands of victims ng EJK hindi magkakaroon ng katarungan kapag ang uupo na susunod na kapangyarihan ay kagaya ng mga kapangyarihan sa kasalukuyan. So, I would like to invite and encourage all of us, whether faith-based o hindi. Kung gusto natin ng katarungan, we should rise and make our votes count. Sabi nila wala raw Catholic vote, wala raw evangelical vote, Protestant vote, meron lang INC vote. Well, this time, let us demonstrate that people of faith can have a vote for justice, a vote for righteousness in this country. Yun lamang po para sa gabing ito. Salamat po sa pagkikinig sa kay Attorney Joel and all the other things na nalaman natin ngayong gabi. Thank you kay Attorney Joel for this.